Greetings Exiles and welcome to this new League Start to End build guide. This time it is the pure physical Impale Bladestorm Berserker. The build I failed Sirus carries on because I simply dealt too much damage, so they couldn't join in. This build offers a unique Bladestorm playstyle. If you never played it, it's really fun. It offers incredible damage because Impale is still OP AF, and solid map clear and defenses. I cleared the whole game on the character, which includes Uber Elder, Sirus, tier 16 juiced maps, all league mechanic bosses, and Delve 83. Everything, of course, on Awakening level 8 and a relatively low budget of around 10 Exalteds in Harvest League. This build is for any player who wants to try something new without the fear of being stuck on a weak build, no matter if it's the league start or the deep endgame. As always, for every build, PoE, timestamps and everything else is in the video description, and make sure to install the PoE community patch to view the PoE. Nearly everything can be found within the PoE notes section, so make sure you check that out as well. Apart from the obvious strength in OP damage because of Impale scaling and a huge life pool, the skill is extremely fun to play and clears maps surprisingly fast thanks to the skill's mechanics and interaction with the Saviour when compared to other melee characters. Gaining rage from the Ascendancy in combination with Overleech and armor means you will have a smooth and safe experience as long as you're not face tanking every mechanic. But don't get any false impression here. The build might look like a real thing, but it definitely is not. You get no defenses from the Ascendancy, and it actually makes you more squishy by taking 10% more damage. The playstyle is also not for everybody, and it's quite hard to play around your Bladestorms to perfection. But don't worry, I didn't play it to perfection, but still steamrolled the whole game. Nonetheless, here's some advice on how to play it. The basics are very simple. In maps, you are in sandstands, which requires your Bladestorms to have great AoE coverage while slowly moving around, so you simply attack until the pack is dead. The hard part comes when you want to maximize your clear speed by knowing exactly how much damage your sandstorms deal when you leave them behind to clear out a pack while you are already moving towards the next one. Against bosses, go into Bloodstance for more attack speed and damage, place your Arcanist brand and Ancestral Warchief totem for greatly increased damage, and just go ham. Don't forget to keep up your blood rage and replace both the brand and the totem only if you got time during the boss fight to do so. Against map bosses you can also use your Berserk, which in almost every case will grant you enough damage, so you don't even have to worry about the brand or the totem. Just remember to go into Bloodstance on bosses. I actually only used Berserk if the boss was at the end of the map, because otherwise the rest of the map clear would be slowed down due to the loss of rage. Now that you got an overview over the character, let's get a little bit more specific. As always, a lot of additional info can be found within the PoE notes section. Keep that in mind if you have any questions. Let's start this section with how to level the character to maps. I personally always enjoy playing Perforate, which I can only suggest you try as well, because you will get used to the blood and sandstance mechanic with that skill. And then from level 28 onwards you can use Bladestorm for everything. During leveling, my first Ascendancy node was Flawless Savagery. This is a huge damage boost when you crit, and since Bladestorm ticks quite often, this will be up almost all the time, even without high investment into crit yet. After that, I chose Crave the Slaughter and Rite of Ruin for rage, which grants damage as well as attack and movement speed to make the leveling experience a lot smoother. The last node is Aspect of Carnage. 40% raw damage multi pretty much means another support gem in your main link worth of DPS. It also increases the damage you take by 10%, which you should keep in mind to stay out of lethal danger. As Bandit, I went to help Alira first until deep late game, When I had good gear, then I would swap to the 2 passive points. As far as gear goes, I actually do not want to go over every gear slot, since you got all the info you need within the PoE with examples and roles you want to look out for. I only want to go over a few specifics here. First of all, there are 2 main gear sets for the 2 major states of the character. The recommended progression steps between these 2 states can be found within the PoE notes section. Let's have a look at uniques here. As weapons, you want to start with a combo of Dreadbeak and Ichimonji, usually cheap but strong swords to get you started. You would then swap to double Armed Smite and in the end replace one of them with the Saviour. The Saviour is basically double damage and a strong increase in clear speed as well. Every Saviour reflection will actually create its own Bladestorms, resulting in 9 or even up to 12 total Bladestorms if you have the enchant. There is no better option here and no better option even if you go for min-maxing this build. Later on, with a lot of currency, you want to replace the other Iron Smite with a high PDPS and crit dual foil. As body armor, there are a lot of viable options, but by far the best when it comes to cost efficiency is a Lore Weave. Huge elemental defense from 78% max res and some life. It also grants a lot of damage from the added physical and the crit, while the all attribute role helps you out with getting the necessary attributes like dexterity and intelligence. Offering to the Serpent are my favorite gloves in basically all melee builds because of the high damage rolls and super high defense from Overlage. Check implicits on trade and then choose whatever you need and can afford. The rest is rare gear. Make sure to cap out all your elemental resistances and get the necessary attributes. Also stack as much life as possible, as this is your primary defense. You can also go for some damage rolls like attack speed, physical damage to attacks and crit multi. In addition to that, I also crafted minus mana cost to make the build a lot smoother by never running out of mana. I went for 3 rolls, but make sure you try out what feels comfortable for you. On rare jewels, go for life as defensive and crit multi or attack speed as offensive priorities. And if necessary, you can also always go for some resistances and attributes. For the latest stages of the build, I actually also recommend getting cluster jewels, which you can find all the info about in the PoE. If you can get enchants, then I recommend +1 maximum number of Bladestorms. This applies to both your and the Saviour Refractions Bladestorms, meaning an overall 25% more damage multiplier and a noticeable increase in clear speed. On gloves, reflection or light are nice, and on boots, either movement speed or attack and cast speed are the best options for the most cases. There are 3 mandatory flasks. An instant life flask as an emergency button when you see your HP dropping low, a diamond flask for huge crit and thus damage scaling, and a quicksilver flask for mapping to be even faster. I then also went for a silver flask to get onslaught, which is another damage and speed buff. As last flask, I recommend trying out a Lion's Roar. That comes with knockback on hit, so if you do not like that, then drop it in maps but use it against the big bosses for a huge damage multiplier. If you don't like the knockback, then you can go for a quartz flask for phasing, a granite flask for armor, or maybe even a rumies for even more armor and block. Just try different things and stick with what you like the most. Also, make sure to get Blade, Freeze and Curse immunity for maps on your magic flasks. As Anointment, I basically always recommend freedom of movement for early mapping, which grants movement speed and phasing. Later on, go for Blade Dancer as a really strong and cheap damage boost. And once you got your cluster jewels going, go for Fatal Blade. As defense, you want something with life, armor, fortify effect, or just the defense you think you need the most. You can find all links within the PoE, so I will only go over a few specific setups here. First of all, put the links wherever they fit best into your gear for easy color setups. There's only one for link, so there's a lot of freedom of moving links in between your gear. In your main link, I recommend trying out multi-strike instead of melee physical. Multi-strike is a big attack speed boost, so you feel a huge difference in how smooth the character plays, but it also grants a lot of damage only in perfect scenarios. So yeah, try it out and choose whatever you like more. I basically always went with melee physical damage, but in leveling stages I went for multi-strike. Your Arcanist brand applies Assassin's Mark for you and also casts Purifying Flame. Why Purifying Flame, you might ask? Well, that's because it creates Consecrated Ground, which is both a strong crit buff against enemies standing on it and a really good life regen for you when you are standing on it. And because you're melee, you're usually getting both effects. When it comes to your Warcry, choose which one you ever prefer. Enduring Cry for defense or Intimidating Cry for offense. Also, what I did was having the Warcry on autocast, which means you put it on your left click, and whenever you're using your left click on the mouse to move, you will automatically cast the Warcry as soon as you have Call to Arms on the passive tree. As far as Pantheon goes, there's nothing special going on here, so these are my usual recommendations. As major, Lunaris in maps and Solaris for bosses. If you have problems with chaos damage, then Arakali might be worth as well. As minor, Rala Cash provides blind and maim immunity if completed, Gruth Cool would be some defense, or you can as well take Shakari if you have problems with chaos and poison damage. And there you have it, my Bladestorm Berserker. Let me know if you like it. I hope I didn't forget anything important, but if you still have questions, look through the PoE notes, YouTube comments, and maybe check the Discord or come by my stream during League Start at twitch.tv/play_like_J. All the links are in the video description. Feel free to ask anything that's unanswered and make sure to like and subscribe for more awesome PoE, upcoming PoE 2, and future ARPG guides and discussions. But that's it from me for now. Enjoy the Sirus Awakening 8 kill, and I will see you in Raycast, maybe as a Bladestorm Berserker. Good luck and thank you very much for watching. I am Jay, and I'm out.
What's this? A real challenge? You've finally caught my attention. Die.
Your lives are meaningless! Rain of stars! Be utterly
The others found
annihilated!
strength in their projections. They became reliant on them. I am not so
I
foolish.
cannot do this yet.
Die.
Beyond, there is only horror.
Be silent. Die.
This city is nothing! Obliteration! Fury of the cosmos! Be utterly annihilated! Rain of stars!
Really interesting enough to warrant all this pain. Die.
Your lives are meaningless! Creation itself! Obliteration!
see the futility of your efforts? Die.
This is gold!
Die.
Why run? What's the point? Be utterly annihilated! Glorious flames! Pointless! Fury of the cosmos! Be utterly annihilated!
Of death, my heart races. I am alive.
Everlasting fire!
Feel the thrill of
The void! Die! Beyond, there is only horror. Die!
I cannot do this yet.
Everlasting fire!
feel the thrill of
The void! Die! Beyond, there is only horror. Be silent. Everlasting fire! Die!
you will long for
Non-existence! Be silent. I have seen beyond. Everlasting fire! Die!
I felt something